seen the order paper.
Hmm?
Mr. Fielding's at it again, I see.
Oh, yes.
Mr. James Fielding, Hammer Green. To ask how many members of the National Export Board are directors of the same company as other members of the board. He's persistent, isn't he?
For all the good it does him. He's like some great stupid terrier. Gets his teeth into something, can't think of anything better to do than keep shaking it.
If he shakes hard enough, something may give.
Huh?
Well, after all, it is a bit irregular having Bligh and Wilder both on the board.
The honourable member for Hammer Green.
Number 11, sir.
The board has 2 such members, sir.
And does the minister think it desirable that 2 directors of the same firm, sir, should sit together on a committee of national importance, of which the total membership is only 9?
It's always difficult to apply general principles in actual cases. In this particular case, when these members were originally appointed to the National Export Board, there was no question of any duplication of interest. And both members have contributed now so much to the work of the board that I fail to see why either of them should be asked to leave.
It seems that the National Export Board wants to congratulate us.
Eh?
Well, I thought you'd probably know about it.
Now, don't play about, Paul. What is it?
It's the Civil Engineering Committee of the board.
Oh, what do they want?
Information.
You said they were congratulating us.
Yes, they are. That's why they want the information. It seems we've done so well in a certain area, they'd like to know how we manage it. It's a very flattering letter.
What area?
Matabilia.
You better give me that letter. I'll answer it.
I thought perhaps you would.
Matabilia?
Oh, he wrote Bligh's a letter about it.
I never saw it.
Well, you see, every letter that's written to Bligh, you must do an awful lot of reading, my darling.
Don't call me darling. I don't like it.
Sorry?
I don't like love words. I never have. You know that.
Well, doesn't Pamela ever call you my darling?
No, she doesn't.
Look, I'm nearly ready.
Oh, well, they'll keep the table for us.
Well, I suppose they'll show you the letter if you ask. It wasn't confidential. It was addressed to the Overseas Department. That's your Mr. Budge, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I don't actually need to steal my copy from the file for you to see.
Where is Matabilia, anyway? All these African states take new names once they get independence. You can't keep up with them.
It used to be Milner's land.
Oh, yes, of course. Had a cousin out there, tobacco farming. Shot himself. Something to do with Bligh.
They're mostly run by the East Germans now. That's what makes Bligh's achievement so odd. No other British civil engineering firm has landed any contracts in Matabilia.
Bribery?
Hardly. They all try bribery, but only Bligh's succeed. It's hard to believe that their bribes are bigger than anyone else's. Besides, Bligh's themselves haven't repeated their success in Matabilia anywhere else in the world.
Have you told them to tell the committee how they did it?
Of course.
Well, you can't imagine that Bligh's are going to disclose trade secrets.
No, I don't imagine that.
You're onto something. What?
Well, nothing suspicious, as I've said.
What, then?
I want teeth in the board.
You want them?
I speak for myself as secretary. I know you want them too, or I shouldn't speak at all.
What do you expect to get from this letter?
I'm not sure of Wilder, but I know where Bligh stands. He doesn't want the board to have teeth. Now we've asked Bligh for some information, and of its nature it must be confidential. When the question of increasing the board's powers comes up before full committee, if Bligh and Wilder oppose, it could be said that they're doing so for private reasons. They may even feel obliged not to vote. I'd really much rather Bligh's didn't reply to our letter.
But if they do, they're free to vote as they wish, with very clear consciences. And then the boot is on the other foot.
They want teeth. That's all.
Well, why shouldn't they have them?
Matter of principle.
Yes? Oh, there are principles on both sides. If you want a national export board, you should give it the power to do the job.
You see, Justine, some of the people on the board want the power to call for persons and papers. That means that if the board is making an inquiry, they can compel any firm.
Or any body, a trade union, for instance, to give evidence.
Well, thank God the unions see that. Newark's no more keen than I am. He doesn't want people asking questions about restrictive practices. At least they can ask, as long as he's not forced to answer.
And what don't you want people to ask questions about?
Trade secrets.
No. The board has a job. It has to make reports on Britain's exports.
And I can't rely on voluntary evidence. The people who are most anxious to cover up are the very people the board ought to be questioning.
Whose side are you on?
Nobody's. No, Justine wanted to know what it was all about.
You know, you always argued for argument's sake, ever since you were a boy. It's a bad habit, you know.
Well, I
Lose
like
friends.
it, Cass. It keeps my wit sharp. Persons and papers. It's a very pretty way of putting it.
Yes, some of them have started sticking in their noses already, I may say.
They've got to stick their noses in. What else are they for? And why say they? You're a member. What are you doing with your own nose, Father? Keeping it in the air?
I'm not a member of the Civil Engineering Committee.
Oh, what do they want?
Well, they're asking about Matabelia.
Well, that's not a trade secret. You can tell them. Won't do anyone any particular good to know. There's no reason why they shouldn't.
Miss Lingard?
Yes, Sir John?
Will you ask Mr. Budge to let me have everything he's got on Matabelia? I'm going to a meeting of the National Export Board, but I shall want it this afternoon.
Yes, Sir John.
Thank you. Yes?
Mr. Budge says all the Matabelia files are with Mr. Caswell Bligh, Sir John. He'll let you know when he gets them back.
I see, thank you.
I don't want to bring the matter to a vote at this stage. I'd rather sound out opinion.
May we ask where you yourself stand, Mr. Chairman?
I'm inclined to believe that in order to work properly, the board should have powers to ask for persons and papers and compel evidence.
You're inclined to believe?
I recognize there are points to be made on the other side.
It's not a matter of points, it's a matter of principle.
Yes?
This is a committee set up by Parliament. It's not a court of law.
No.
We may be forcing people to incriminate themselves.
Oh, come on.
No, I mean it. None of us here who speaks for industry is a comic cuts capitalist in a top hat.
I don't know. I've seen Fulton in a top hat.
Only for Ascot, damn it.
None of us here is a criminal, not in any reasonable sense of the word. But every businessman knows that he walks through such a maze of government regulations that he can't always tell when he's in the clear. And as for the trade union...
I think the trade union should be allowed to speak for themselves.
Sam and I have talked about this, of course. Things are very confused at the moment. We all know that. I don't think any trade union official would want to be forced to say anything that might land him up in the courts for conspiracy.
I don't question what Mr. Bligh says about the principle, but I think he exaggerates the dangers. In the United States, committees of this sort are commonly used.
Yes. Senator McCarthy was chairman of one of them.
That's hardly fair. None of us is a McCarthy.
We don't know till we start, do we?
The question is, can the board function effectively without these powers?
We've done all right up to now.
Well, we've done very little up to now. It's taken some time to get the machine in running order. Now it has to run.
You know, all this stuff about principles and McCarthy, it's a bit of a red herring, isn't it? The real question is whether we ought to be able to force, well, me, for instance, to let secret information out of my safe and into your files.
I don't see why this question has to come up. I mean, we've not yet had any cases of refusal to give evidence.
Mr. Secretary.
It may be a little early to say, Mr. Chairman, but my own research staff may have encountered one such case in preparing a basic paper for one of the board's committees.
And what committee was that?
We have asked one particular firm for some information, and though, in fact, it isn't very important...
What firm?
It is true to say that the information in question has not yet been answered.
I said, what firm?
I'm afraid that is the sort of information that has to remain confidential, Sir John.
You wrote the letter on behalf of the board. The board should be able to know.
It was on behalf of a subcommittee. I'll rule that out of order. It will not appear in the...
Don't bother. The firm was Bligh's. I don't think our delay in replying makes out a case for compulsory powers, Mr. Chairman. I'm answering the letter myself when I get round to it.
I'm worried about Cass.
Why?
Because he's worried.
Oh, Father's always worried.
No, he's not. He's not really one to fret, not Cass. But something's gnawing at him.
Yes.
What?
Oh, I wish I knew. I'd say it was this Matabelia thing, except I don't see why.
He was on about that the other night.
There's no reason to worry. If the National Export Board wants to know why we get contracts in Matabelia, it's easy enough to tell them.
But why do you?
Old boy net.
Matabelia?
Well, Father's got all sorts of friends.
I tell you, in the 30s, we were constantly entertaining visiting socialists. Germans, Italians, French.
Cass's Socialist Party?
Yes, that's right. And during the war, some of the Germans came back. Well, there was one in particular, Hans Breikers. His father and he were great buddies. He stayed in our house for almost a year before they parachuted him back in. I was 12, I remember grudging him the rations.
And Matabele?
Matabele is an emergent nation. That means that in practice, somebody else runs it. Well, in this case, it's the East German trade delegation. Hans is in charge of it. So we get the contracts.
I don't see why Cass should be worried about that.
No, nor do I. I tried to talk to him, but he got snappy, so I stopped.
I know he's doing that all the time now. I wish you got on better with him.
You're not blaming me.
A bit. You've been chafing and biting him.
I'm 36.
He knows that.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes.
He does. He's afraid of it. Strength shall be lord of imbecility, and the rude son shall strike the father dead.
Oh, what's that?
Troilus and Cressida. I suppose one day you will have to.
Strike the father dead? Yes.
And I hope I'm not around when you do.
I'll need you around when I do.
Ken, love, so will he.
Old boy network, hmm?
Oh, Herr Breikers and Mr. Bligh are very old friends.
I don't believe it. It's far too easy.
Shall I leave the files with you, Sir John? I'm afraid we can't delay dispatching the letter itself.
I've lost you, Paul, haven't I? What a pity.
Well, not lost. I just don't want to get involved.
With this Matabele business?
With anything, Sir John. I know now that I shall ever be a director, and when a man of my age knows that he can't go any higher, then he concentrates on simply staying where he is for as long as possible. And that's done by not taking sides.
So much for Matabele.
Who cares about Matabele?
Well, I thought you did.
I care about getting powers for this board. I did not leave the Treasury to be shunted into a dead end.
May heaven preserve me from ambitious men.
Heaven doesn't seem to have made much of a job of that so far.
I'm not sure I understand you.
Oh, my dear, let it go. Your private life is your own affair, up to a point.
Up to what point?
I said let it go. The old boy network. It's not as simple as that. I don't believe it.
Well, there's no question of a drop in salary. Taxes are lower there.
But I've bought my house. I've finished paying for it.
Let it while you're away.
It's taken me 7 years to get the plantains out of the lawn. I don't expect you to be concerned with the small things. My wife is very active in the townswomen's guild.
God, it's not exile. Most people would give their ears to live in Geneva. Well, the climate alone.
It's exile for me.
We need you there, Paul.
No. You need me out of the way here. I hope you'll reconsider.
Well, I may, Paul. There's no point in sending you if you don't really want to go.
I retire in 6 years. I'd rather stay where I am till then.
And why did you want me here?
Well, I suppose I gave him the impression that the suggestion came from you.
You suppose?
Well, I did give it.
You do want him out of the way, then? Why?
Or he's sitting on a department, blocking the way.
For whom?
Oh, young blood.
But you're sitting on that department. Paul's always done what he's told. That's why he's here.
I can change my mind. Get me Paul Budge.
Now what? You know, you mightn't find young blood so docile. Even I get restive.
Oh, Paul. I've had another word with Mr. Kenneth. Don't you worry about that. We'll manage something else. You'll stay where you are.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Bligh. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Get me Sir John Wilder, would you, please?
Clearly there's a connection. I don't know what it is.
Do you want a hot drink? Because I do.
No, thank you. The trouble is, I don't see it yet.
Oh, why couldn't Budge come right out and tell you?
Well, he wouldn't commit himself that far. If I find it out for myself, he can't be blamed. The odd thing is, it's been under my nose all this time, and I've missed it.
Ah, it's not like you.
All he said was, look into the arrangements for hiring plant. You might find an anomaly. Well, I've already done that when I was thinking of taking over Pantons, the firm we hire plant from.
Yes, but you were looking at it from a different point of view then. That was one of your wily manoeuvres. I don't know how you get any work done at Bligh's. You're all so busy trying to manipulate one another.
Well, directors do not work in that sense.
What's this anomaly, anyway?
We hire most of our plant, but a few items we buy.
What sort of items?
Oh, special stuff. American pressure grouting equipment manufactured under patent.
Grouting? 2 o'clock in the morning.
Pressure grouting. If you're building a tunnel and the rock isn't solid, it forces cement into the cracks and welds it together. It's a technique that the Americans have developed.
Well, what happens when you're not using them? These grouting things, what happens to them? Do they just lie about in a large park behind the factory and get shown to visiting MPs?
That's the point, isn't it? We could hire them, but we buy them. Therefore, we've still got them. Or if we haven't, we've sold them again.
Morning, Ken.
Good morning. I think I want to know why you tried to get rid of Budge.
I told you. He's too old for the job.
Well, he's younger than you are, Father. I think I also want to know why Wilder is looking into our paper companies.
What?
I want to know why Wilder has suddenly become interested in the affairs of our paper companies.
Has he?
Well, most of them haven't operated for years, so there's not much to find. It'll keep him occupied, I suppose.
He'll put Henderson onto him.
Well, then it'll keep Henderson occupied. Harmlessly, as I take it?
Yes.
What do you think Wilder is expecting to find?
How should I know?
Damn you!
What?
What do you think I am, a child? A mental deficient? You've done something. You've given Wilder an opening of some sort. You've been worried sick these last 3 weeks. I've a right to know.
Mind your own business, Kenneth.
Bligh's is my business. You forget that sometimes.
I never forget it. It's your inheritance.
Ah, what are you, the public trustee? If so, I've a right to examine your accounts.
Look, if I'm worried, my worries are my own. If I'm in trouble, I'll get myself out of it.
It's nothing criminal.
Oh, don't be a damn fool, boy.
I am not a boy. I could help you.
When I need your help, I'll ask for it. Miss Tillingshead, get on to Mr. Dawkins of CB Enterprises Tell him to close the office and to take a month's holiday as from today. Now, those are my orders. I want them carried out immediately.
And what's a paper company?
Well, every firm has them. They're companies that are bought up and not used, just buying the name. I suppose Blythe doesn't want to appear directly in some matter, then we can work through a paper company. It's got the same board of directors, probably the same registered office. Unless it's located abroad. But it isn't called Bly Construction.
Is that what you're doing in Matabele?
No, no, we deal direct. I don't understand it. I wish he'd told me. I wish I hadn't lost my temper. Oh, I wish a lot of things.
You want me to talk to him?
No, least of all that.
You're not jealous?
No.
Look, Ken, if he really needs help...
Well, he's got to learn to ask. Otherwise, there's no hope. I'll have to fight him.
Good idea. I'll bear it in mind. I asked you to stay behind because I wanted to talk to you. Should be some whiskey about here somewhere.
I never drink in the middle of the day.
I do. I think perhaps I do too. Well, there's some pineapple juice if you wanted to be matey, Caswell, or tonic.
No, thank you.
I'm not exactly sure what soda water and quinine is supposed to be a tonic for, except malaria.
Shall we come to the point, Bob?
Thank you. You know James Fielding's asking questions in the house.
I know he's being answered.
He keeps asking, though.
You want one of us to resign?
I see no reason why the minister should defend a practice that common sense says is wrong.
If I hadn't opposed this business of the board's extra powers, would you be so keen on one of us resigning?
Come now.
You'd like me off the board so that you could replace me with someone more amenable.
I haven't asked you.
No, of course you haven't asked. You're not in a position to. But you could force me.
Force nothing. I force nothing. I indicate no preference between you. I'll remind you of a situation, ask you what you feel about it.
Well, you know what we feel about it, Bob. Either of us would be glad if the other were to resign. But neither of us will resign in the other's favor. Stalemate, so we go on. Anyway, there's always the question of what my opinion is about extending the board's powers.
Yes.
Well, I have no opinion. I'm still considering the arguments. I have so much to think about these days.
Excuse me.
You make no promises, then?
No.
Without these powers, we can do nothing. If it all comes to nothing, what am I doing here? Or why are you here, John? I'm not interested in failing. I can't believe you are.
As I said, I make no promises. But it would obviously make your job much easier if Caswell Bly were to resign from the board.
Ah, thank you. Where's Ken?
You're just asking for him? Or do you want him?
Just asking.
You're an obstinate old devil.
Yes.
Why won't you let Ken help?
I'm his father.
Well, that's all the more reason.
I said I'm his father, Jayston. His mother's dead. I have no other children. And when I look into the future, I see myself living here. An old man living with his family.
Is that so bad?
Father has his own room. We like to give him the independence. Well, I may come to it, God knows, before I die. I spend enough time here as it is.
Cass, we love you. We're glad to see you.
But I won't move any faster in that direction than I have to. It'll come in time. And I won't go to meet it. Now, when I begin asking Ken for help, I've taken the first step to it. I'll do without that as long as I can. I'll be my own master.
And his too, it seems.
And anyone's. His time will come. Let him wait until then.
CB Enterprises is my father's own firm. We have no direct concern with them.
You mean we can't look into the books?
Well, if you have any questions, I'm sure my father will be pleased to answer them.
I did have questions. I sent Henderson round the other day to the registered offices of CB Enterprises to ask a few. He found the office closed and the staff on holiday.
All the more reason for asking my father.
CB Enterprises has a very little office. One man with one telephone in one room. They can't do very much business. As far as I can see, they only do business with Bly Construction Limited. Your father dealing with your father. Odd.
We're not suggesting anything dishonest.
I want to know what's going on.
No, you want to tell me what's going on. You're enjoying it.
Here. Anomaly number 1. Blighs do not buy plant. They hire it, except for just a few items. All specialized American equipment manufactured under patent. And what do we do with that equipment? We hardly bother to use it. Instead, we sell it to CB Enterprises.
Wouldn't take a loss.
Oh, no, nothing like that. No suggestion of sharp practice of that kind.
What are you alleging, then?
I want to know why we do it. Next, anomaly number 2, Matabilia.
Well, my father explained all that.
Yes. The jobs we do in Matabilia all involve the use of specialized American equipment manufactured under patent. The jobs couldn't be done without that equipment at the price that we tendered. But of course, we can't provide that equipment because Matabilia is on the American restricted list.
Well, it's not a communist country.
No, but it's run on communist aid by Herbert, as we know, your father's old friend. The USA won't allow that equipment into Matabilia any more than they will into China or Cuba or any other place that's on their little list. So we can't provide the equipment, even though we may tender for the contracts. Luckily, we don't have to provide it. The government of Matabilia have that equipment already, and we hire it from them. Now, where do they get it from?
Well, it's not criminal.
No.
It's not against the law to use a paper company to beat the American blacklist.
No. It's not against the law, but it's very odd behavior in a respected member of the National Export Board.
That's your price, then?
I didn't ask you here to talk about price.
No.
Look, it's a very delicate situation. If the Americans discover what's going on, it will do Blighs a great deal of harm. We are joint managing directors, you and I. We should consult each other in a crisis of this sort.
And what do you suggest?
Your father should resign from the National Export Board. He should take a less active part in the management of Bligh Construction Limited. We'll wind up CB Enterprises, and the whole matter will die quietly.
It will break him.
Oh, come.
Well, you're pushing him into retirement. He's not yet 60.
Well, he's very close.
Well, we'll kill him. First to be beaten, then to have nothing to do.
Ken, there's nothing you'd like better than your father to retire, and we both know it.
I won't break him.
You won't have to. I'll do it for you.
No, I don't think so. I don't want him broken. Least of all by you.
I don't think that you have any choice.
You're taking too much for granted.
Hmm?
You found something out. If you make it public, you'll force Father to resign from the National Export Board, and you'll do Bligh some harm with the Americans. But you are a director of Bligh Construction. And if you do Bligh's harm for your own reasons, you will cease to be a director.
I think Albertsons might have something to say about that.
You think so?
I know so.
Albertsons own 30% of us. I don't think they'll want their shares to lose value. In any case, between us, my father and I control the trust, which owns a majority of the shares. If you break my father, we'll break you. You have my promise for that. I don't think you need those anymore, do you?
Right. I'm not asleep.
Sorry.
Put the light on, if you like.
Mm. Do you want a cigarette?
May I have one of mine? They're on the dressing table.
Sorry if I kept you awake. I've been trying to lie still.
That's what kept me awake.
I don't know what to do.
About Cass.
Yes.
Can't you just let it lie?
No.
I thought John Wilder said you could just kill the whole thing quietly.
Not without telling Father.
Would that be such a bad thing?
He's been refusing help from me.
Well, it won't hurt him to take it.
Yes, it will.
Look, darling, he's a tough old man. He forgets unpleasant facts. He'll just cover it over in his mind.
You want me to tell him to forget, and everything to go on as before. Well, I could have got that far, I suppose. That wouldn't have kept me awake. No, it's not as simple as that.
Well, what else is there?
You'll have to resign.
Not from Blythe.
From the National Export Board.
That's what John Wilder wants.
Yes.
Will he never do that?
He must do it. He told a lie.
It wasn't a lie. It was a half-truth.
Oh, it's the same thing.
We're not even going to find out, not if you stop the Matabelia thing.
Well, I may, because we stop it. Suddenly, Blythe Construction isn't getting the contracts anymore. The old boy net has a hole in it. I mean, he's already had to start covering up. He tried to transfer Paul Budge to Geneva. He sent Dawkins on holiday. And once you begin covering up a lie, you have to go on and on. It grows. We've done nothing dishonest yet, but if it goes on... Well, Blythe can't be involved in that. Father must go to Gillingham, tell him the truth in confidence, and then resign.
You've been working all this out, haven't you? Lying there in the dark and trying not to move. You told me you didn't know what to do, but it seems to me that you do.
It's come to me.
Darling, you don't have to force things. Let him do it off his own accord.
He has to be told.
Not what to do. Tell him what you know, tell him what's happened, and then let him decide what to do.
As long as he makes the right decision.
And who says what's right?
I do. Somebody has to, so I do.
About 5 or 10 minutes.
Fine.
Well?
No.
Well, there's no need to be so emphatic about it. It's not that important. I can approach Wilder myself.
Then why don't you?
I want to create the right atmosphere, if we can.
Well, you certainly won't create the right atmosphere by meeting in my flat. I'll have one very sulky young woman there to spoil it for you.
Susan, the last thing I want to do
never
is
mind about the last thing. What's the first thing?
Well, for instance, there's no doubt it's useful to Wilder that you're secretary of the Civil Engineering Committee, since he himself can't sit on it.
Then move me.
That's my point, isn't it? I could do that. It's within my competence.
Do what you like. Move me. Or put me onto armaments or textiles. Set up a committee for licorice, all sorts, and I'll be its secretary. I ask nothing better.
I don't understand.
It has never even occurred to you, has it, that I might actually not enjoy being used, that I might be sick to death of the whole business, that more and more I might want not to be in a position where I can be used, that I might want to be valued for myself, that I might want him to talk about his problems because he needs to share them and not because he wants information. Has that never occurred to you?
I'd say you picked the wrong man, my dear.
Very interesting.
I told Wilder that if he made any part of that public, we'd vote him out of Blythe.
Yes.
Well, is that all you have to say?
It's as much as I can do to speak to you. What do you think I'm feeling? How do you think I feel?
Well, you've been found out. It hurts.
Look, I've done nothing dishonest. I don't approve of the American blacklist.
You hid what you were doing from us all.
It was my own affair.
No, it was Blythe's affair.
I am Blythe's.
Not now.
All right. We'll wind it up. The whole business.
That's not enough.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, I'm putting this badly. Father, I want you to see the best thing to do. I want you to think about it and come to a decision.
Well, I told you, we'll wind it up. Forget about it.
But Wilder knows.
Yes. You stopped his mouth. Thank you. Is that what you wanted me to say? Well, I've said it! Thank you for protecting me.
Paul Budge knows.
He's always known.
You lied to the National Export Board.
It was not a lie.
Well, it amounts to a lie, and it's on record.
Well, it can't be helped.
It can be.
How?
You could tell Gillingham the truth.
Don't be a damn fool. I'd have to resign.
Yes. You might want to.
And suppose I don't see it that way?
I'll tell Gillingham myself.
Miss Stilling's head has some broken glass in here. I want it cleared up.
What's your answer, Father?
I'll tell him.
Very, very interesting.
I thought we were going to have Mr. Kemp for dinner.
Oh, it's not necessary.
Didn't you promise Ken Bly to keep quiet about it?
I promised him not to make it public. If I choose to leak it privately where it'll do most good, that's my business.
It's a bit of a risk.
I take risks.
What if they find out?
I lose. But Kemp won't quote me. He'll ferret it out for himself, just as I did, and he'll take all the credit. Sefton Kemp, super detective. It's like a boy's adventure story.
Well, that's all right then, isn't it?
I think so.
Of course, if Kemp makes it public, Liars will suffer. Don't you care about that?
Well, he won't.
Because he's promised. Really, John, you of all people to rely on promises.
His interest is not to harm Blythe. His interest is the same as mine, to get Caswell off that board. You ready?
Just about. You know I've asked to be transferred from the Civil Engineering Committee.
What?
I've asked to be transferred to another committee. Well, don't worry. I'm not leaving the board. We'll still see each other.
But I need you on that committee, you know that.
As a spy. Well, I'm tired of it. Look, John, about a fortnight ago, you told me, and I can quote your exact words, you said you could be 1,000 miles from the Export Board or any other of my interests. It would make no difference. Well, now you have a chance to prove you meant what you said.
I need you on that committee.
I've told you. I've asked for a transfer. You're very innocent in some ways, John. Having a mistress in 1966 isn't a question of expensive meals and buying me jewelry and a dress from Guillard. There are a lot of other things involved, like consideration and affection. I won't say love. So I'm telling you, my darling, if you really want a mistress, it's time you started working at it.
Has Kemp agreed to this transfer?
See in the order paper.
Oh, God, not again.
Yes. Mr. James Fielding, Hammer Green, wants to know whether the two members of the National Export Board...
One day I shall say something I may regret to that man.
Yes, well, that's his hope.
All right, you needn't remind me. I'll have an answer drafted. Something positive to hold him for a bit.
I'll resign, of course.
I accept it, of course. Damn. I'm sorry. Now it comes to the point. I'm sorry.
Well, now that you'll be increasing the board to 15 and replacing me, you'll have plenty of support for your extra powers.
Oh, I don't know. Still a lot of opposition. The unions aren't keen, as you know.
You can't expect it.
No. You went to work on Newark, I take it. Perhaps I'd have done better not to consult you at all. I thought I'd be stronger with the whole board behind me. I could have gone ahead on my own as chairman.
I'd have done it.
Wouldn't have come up. You opposed powers anyway.
If I'd beaten you for the chairmanship, I'd have wanted teeth. Brandy?
No. I don't know what to say to you.
There's nothing you can say.
Goodbye, Caswell.
Bye, Bob.
The honourable member for Hammer Green.
Number 8, sir.
The Ministry has every confidence in the disinterestedness of both members, sir. Both these men were appointed to the National Export Board on their merits, and... Both these men were appointed on their merits, and no insinuation that the honourable gentleman has been able to make has yet succeeded in undermining the confidence of my ministry in their merits.
I'd be doing a little private investigation.
Oh, not now, my dear fellow. We haven't time.
I think you might want to talk to Mr. Bligh after the meeting.
Bligh won't be at the meeting. He's resigned.
Resigned?
Yes, and as for your little bit of detective work, I think I already know what you're going to tell me.
How?
Well, Bligh told me himself, of his own free will, he recognized an error of judgment, offered his resignation, I accepted it.
Oh. Oh dear, what a waste of time and thought.
I've sent a message to the minister. I'm going to tell the other members of the board at this meeting.
Tell them what?
That Bligh has resigned, nothing else. They've been expecting either Wilder or Bligh to go eventually. They won't look for any other explanation.
Excuse me. Kemp, yes. Yes, he is. The minister wants to talk to you. Will you take it here?
Oh, yes. Please see that we're not interrupted. Gillingham? Yes, put him on. I can talk. Minister? What? But I thought I made it quite clear. Did you get my... But surely, sir, you agree... No, it's not criminal, but it's extremely imprudent.
Then it is not criminal. I don't care. I will not have a resignation at this stage. Do you think I can stand at their dispatch box this afternoon and choke off James Fielding with a lot of waffle about my unlimited confidence in Bligh and Wilder, and then go out and find Bligh's resignation in the evening papers? I won't have it. One thing no minister can afford in the House of Commons is to be made to look a fool. They never forget it. Well, tell Bligh if he still wants to resign in 6 months' time, he can develop a weak heart or prostate trouble or something. But at this moment of time, he'll bloody well stay where I want him.
Yes. Yes, Minister. Yes, I will tell him. Switchboard, get me Mr. Caswell Bligh, please.
All right, to come in now?
Yes, I won't keep you a minute, Arthur. Just hanging on for Caswell Bligh. He was afraid he couldn't make it, but I think I can get him to come over, as we're still in the thick of this question of extra members for the board. Oh, Caswell. Gillingham here. I wondered if you could get over after all. You know how much we value your opinion. Well, it'd be a shame to miss out at this stage. About that other matter, I have had a word with the minister.